and pondered on that shit. And then she wanted to come at me. She was just like, I get the sense that just because I'm not a mom, that I don't care deeply about things ever. I'm like, have you ever had children? I have nieces and nephews. I said, has a child ever grown inside of your womb and then passed out of your vagina or an incision slightly above it? No, no, that hasn't happened. But I care deeply about stuff. And I'm like, I made that mistake before when I was younger, assuming that because I have knowledge of something that I have experienced it, and that's not so.
Nope.
But you have every license in the world to think how you think about a situation. But once you have kids, I beg you to revisit this conversation. So,
because you're never ready.
Yeah, you're not. You're just not. And you don't know the depth of emotion that's involved with bringing a child into this world and then seeing it to adulthood. You just don't know. And I would never say some shit like that to like a parent, and I don't have no kids. Like, I will never talk shit to a parent with grown kids. I ain't never had a grown kid before.
Yeah, right. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, which is why I was totally standing with Kirk Franklin. I was like, I understand, bro.
It's like, yeah, there's some shit that has gone on there I have no knowledge of. You go ahead and handle that. That's a family matter. I don't even need to know anything about it.
Don't even care. But I do think it is hilarious that his podcast, yes, he has a podcast, is called Good Words. I was like,
he knows
those were the perfect words.
He does have some awareness, but how he knows those words are so good unless he said some of the other ones. I'm just like, the advice that I could give that is actually good advice comes from personal experience. Yes. Otherwise, I'm keeping my fucking mouth shut.
That's why once you get old, you can just say whatever you want, because it's like everything has happened to me except for death, obviously, and you never know. There's a spirit world out there. I could have died years ago. I mean, that's what was happening with the old dude who just died, Prince, whoever. I'm like, this man's been dead for 30 years. Has no one like looked at his pictures? He's a reanimated corpse. He's been dead. They just decided to acknowledge it because they're mad with Megan and they want to like.
I feel like they said he was dead after they found out DMX was dead and then rushed to report it before they reported DMX. I think that's the only reason why they had Philip die on that date, and then gonna have him in that fucking truck.
Yeah, that man, I was like, I thought he had been dead, but because when rich people have money, they do weird things with it. They just been carting him around.
Welcome to Rappin' Atlanta. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Nita Sharice.
And in this podcast, we have a frank, honest, and open discussion about the FX show Atlanta. As you know, we covered season 2 a while ago, and it's available on your favorite podcast app right now. Because we love the show so much, we decided to do a rewatch.
We have noticed that there are similar characteristics in each show, and during our discussion, we offer our impressions on what those features are. There's a That's So Atlanta moment in each episode that most clearly and accurately depicts the spirit or quirk that is Atlanta and or is life in the American South.
Darius-isms highlight the special flavor the character Darius brings to the show because he is easily one of the most layered, complex, and compelling characters on television.
There always seems to be a mystical element or some strange thing that happens beyond all logical reason and sometimes scientific explanation. We've all experienced those kinds of moments.
And finally, the SGR moment is very plainly the moment in each show when shit got real and we are reminded that life is not a game and desperation has the power to motivate any and every possible action.
Today we're discussing season 1, episode 5, Nobody Beats the Biebs. Paperboy gets exposure in a celebrity charity event and Earn gets a lesson in PR, while Darius takes a trip to the gun range.
This episode, you know what? I was trying to figure out why I was so apprehensive about taking notes on this episode, because I just felt like I don't want to go into that place in my mind. Like, I know the horrors that lurk there. But it's specifically because of like life in Las Vegas, it just reminded me of that whole thing in Las Vegas and in LA, the whole working for radio media and then going to events and doing the charitable events and kind of like having to schmooze and drink with people and getting exposed to the types of people that earn encountered. And I was just like, ugh, I hate all of this. And then I've been to an event like that in Atlanta. It was at this clothing store that kept changing owners. And then there were a couple of shootings there. I don't even know if it's open still, but there was, was it I think it was a shoe release or something. It was either the grand opening of that store to promote these specific shoes, and all of like the Atlanta Black hip hop people there, the hip hoppers, the rap guys, the hip hoplets. So what, Monica was there, Big Boy from Outkast was there, Megan Good was there. Yeah, and
all the BET movie folks.
Yeah, all the BET movie folks were there, and none of them looked like they wanted to be there. All of them looked like, but there was not a butler pass, there was no free alcohol flowing. It was kind of like, if you're gonna do an event, let's do it. All of them looked like, I'd rather be somewhere, like Big Boy specifically, I'd rather be somewhere writing a rhyme right now, but I'm at this shit. Like,
yeah, you need to have food and liquor. It always makes things better.
They just had clothes and people with cameras, and then one of those like step and repeats, you know. So I was just like, no.
I have a question. Why is that called step and repeat?
Because you step up in front of it, take your picture, then step again to the side so that the next camera people can. So it's, you know, you're stepping and repeating the process with these other different photographers.
Okay, because I've always thought like, this is random. Step and repeat always makes me picture someone stepping in front of it, getting the picture taken, and then going back in front of that backdrop so that they look like a GIF. Like every time somebody says it, I just get somebody going. And I'm just like, why is that called that? Like, so are you saying like when there's multiple ones set up and like now you're standing in front of, I always picture it like you're going back to that same one, like, okay, and back again. And then I'm just like, so like a GIF? Like,
no, when I hear that, when I hear the title of that, like when I first read it, I'm like, oh, okay. But it always reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Lisa was in the Little Miss Springfield pageant, and the choreographer was like, it's step, pause, pivot, step, not step, pause, pivot, step, pause. And I don't know why I retained that.
Yeah, me either. Step and repeat is easier. Yeah, that always, I just picture somebody going like this. Probably like one of our dumbasses just.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, just right from the opening when Paperboy is in front of that step and repeat. And I'm like, is there an Atlanta Youth Outreach? There's some sort of like organization having to do with kids in Atlanta reaching out and whatnot.
I just liked how vague the name of that is. Like there is nothing that ties it to like, and I know that was probably like done on purpose, but there's nothing that ties it to like, it's not even like Boys and Girls Club. It's just Youth Atlanta outreach, and like you can like throw an org in there, you know, you can throw like literacy. It's just random, like and this is like my own deep opinions that I'm beginning to form about nonprofits, but it's like, it's just some random thing. Somebody's getting money and they're giving like just enough over to like what it's supposed to be about to not raise any red flags. But it just denotes that nonprofit set that I really didn't know existed until I started working for an unnamed one like a couple of years ago. And like you start seeing it's like the same people like at different things. And like the events are always like pretty cool. Like as far as like, oh, okay, I got dressed up. I have a little drinky, like it's all those like tall tables with no chairs that like people kind of just stand at. And you just kind of start to like, they're just tropes. Like, okay, there's the step and repeat, which I used to call the backdrop, but I'm like, no one else is calling it that. So there is that. There's someone who's covering the event. It's all the same people. It's pretty trendy. And in the back of your mind, you're like, is this doing anything? Like,
yeah.
none
What
of
is
the
this really
people that
for?
this is serving are actually here.
Mhm.
Like, and when they are, it's like maybe 5 minutes, to where this could just be a party.
So that reminds me. So when I was in Las Vegas, I was working for the radio station, and one of my clients was a car dealership. Because all of us had to have a car dealership. It just split up the revenue coming into the station. Number one, and it was just to maintain relationships with all the car dealerships because they were going to advertise on the radio, obviously. So they partnered with some charitable organization, and I don't know if we had anything to do with it, but I was supposed to be there, and it was a birthday party for homeless kids. We had a cake, there was food, there was the best grilled steak I had ever had at that car dealership. Not a single child there. Not a single homeless child.
Are they going to tell the kids about the party that they had for them?
I don't know. It's like, join us as we wish homeless children a very happy birthday. I'm like, what?
This is real? Now, this sounds like something that would be on at Atlanta or some random
that
show.
really happens.
Oh my God.
I was there.
Horrible.
Because I'm looking around, I'm enjoying the cake. I was like, oh, this is great cake. It's got like cream cheese frosting, and the steak, it was rare. It was one of like the rarest steaks I'd ever eaten. Delicious. And I'm looking around and I'm just like, there are no children here.
Did they collect gifts for them? Like, was there like a gift drive that like someone was going to drop off later?
I don't know if they were collecting checks, contributions, or I didn't see any.
The children come.
I would have even been willing to bring a canned good, and I don't even think I brought that. Like, it was
probably like in the middle of the day on a weekday when it's like children are in school. Like, what?
Yeah, it was. It was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Yeah.
My first husband came. We both enjoyed the steak and the cake together. Steak and cake. I didn't even realize that rhymed.
That's horrible. That's really
it is.
But yeah. So
that happens all the time.
That event smacked of that. And then like the celebrities that are like, it's kind of cool to meet it, but like it wasn't Beyonce there,
Yeah.
Or like it was just like, oh yeah, he lives in my apartment building and I'm just doing okay financially, but he lives right there.
I mean, the fact that Paperboy is there, is he a headliner? No, he's not. He's getting some local attention. His mixtape is distributed. He's a local homegrown hero at this point. But then there's also Lloyd and freaking Urkel. What's his name? He's coming out with his own marijuana.
Jaleel White. Yes, I was very happy for him. Yeah.
I'm happy for him too.
He looks good.
He does look good.
Okay, Urkel, you have fully embodied Step On. I see you.
I'm like revisiting because you know who I saw recently and I was like, yeah, it hit Shawn Stockman. He's the dude from Boys to Men.
Skinny one?
Visions of a Sunset. He's fine now. He's Silver Fox in it.
Really?
Yes. What, you need me to show you a picture? So Paperboy is one of these Atlanta Youth Outreach. Or was it Youth Atlanta Outreach? You know how everything in Atlanta is like...
I think it just started off with you. Oh, actually, because I'm looking at my notes. Youth Empowerment.
It's Youth Empowerment? But what was on the step and repeat? Wasn't it Atlanta Youth Outreach or Youth Atlanta Outreach? It was something, that was the logo.
I think it started with youth. Because I remember just thinking like, it always starts like that.
and therein lies my first That's So Atlanta. There are 50 million businesses where it's just like, it's whatever they do in Atlanta. So chicken restaurant, Chicken Atlanta.
Really?
Yes. Shoe store, Shoes Atlanta. Boats Atlanta. Or like microbrewery, ATL. There's so many shops with something ATL or something Atlanta.
But ATL is so, it's so Atlanta. I mean, it's just it's the way it's referred to so much that sometimes I forget that the word is actually at Atlanta, and I will use ATL like in a sentence as if I'm saying like at Atlanta. It's become a thing. New Orleans is like that with NOLA, which NOLA I have like a kind of a flawed relationship with because in my opinion, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it's gained prominence like the more gentrified we've become.
Mm-hmm.
NOLA has always been a thing. Like when you're mailing something, it's acceptable to just put NOLA and then your zip code.
Really?
Yeah. Like I've
I
seen
didn't
it
know
like
that.
yeah. But it actually being verbalized and used, I feel like it's kind of a recent thing. But you see it everywhere, like shoe NOLA, hot dog
Mm-hmm.
NOLA, or and I don't even know if like those are real places, but if they were, like it's just so used. But it's just like ATL. It is a thing that people say, and people like they know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was watching some show on Netflix, and the chick's name was NOLA. Uh, and I just couldn't even get into it because I just kept hearing New Orleans, Louisiana. Just like ATL to me, it's the same as Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Like I picture it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't say. I don't say it. So it's the same thing. I think it's when a city is just like so well known, or like they're on the map for like lots of different things, and it's a center for things. It just
Mm-hmm.
becomes what it's called. So there doesn't have to be too much imagination in like naming your business at all. And the South as a whole is like that. Like Southern, like they just tack Southern onto things too. Like, there's like Southern scrap. Like it's this yard where like you can go and like bring your car and they'll scrap it and give you money. Like it's like it's a scrap yard, but they just put Southern and it's fine. Or like Southern snowballs. So I don't know if that's a Southern thing. I don't know if any other place in the country does that. Like,
I'm
does the
trying to
West
think,
Coast
and
do that? Like,
I mean, there's things like West Coast Automotive or West Coast whatever, but it's not like, I don't know. I don't think California when I think West Coast, because I literally think the entire coast. But
yeah, and
then
I only
when,
think California.
yeah, well, like when you said word like West Side, I'm like, no, that's Cali.
Hmm.
That's specifically the Bay or LA. You know,
Right.
forget all the stuff in between. It's like a whole state, and all of that.
Yeah,
But
I think
yeah,
we
I
all do
think
that. It's like California is
yeah,
Los Angeles. Just like I'm like, why is it New Orleans the capital of Louisiana? Who cares about Baton Rouge?
it
Red
ought to be the
Stick?
capital of Louisiana.
What are you talking about? I remember learning that. Like I think I was 8. I was like, wait, it's not New Orleans. Why? All the stuff is there. Oh well.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah,
because
I think the
that's how
South is
Atlanta is.
obsessed with being the South, and they just put it on everything. Like there's Dixie this and Dixie that. I don't know. I think it's a Southern thing.
Well, so Alfred is there. What they have like a little exchange about some shoe store shutting down or something like that. It's kind of nice how they manage to have these little exchanges during the
Hmm.
show. You remember their family, their cousins, their friends. They hang out.
Right,
We're not just looking at business people.
right.
They're it's personal, and that was nice. That was just like, for me, it's just like, oh, familiarity in this shit show that's
Yes.
about to take place.
Yes.
These shit show events that's supposed to be for the good, but it's really just benefiting the people who are there.
Right. Did
Yeah.
that conversation come about because, and I could be making this up, because somebody said something about the shoes that he was wearing for the game? Like, is that why it came up?
I think so.
Yeah,
Or
like
like,
I think it was kind of like, oh, you wearing those shoes, and then yeah, but yeah, you're right. It was a very like regular, familiar conversation, which is not
mm-hmm.
always easy to write without sounding like this is a
Yeah.
line for the show that I am writing for the show.
I'm writing a slice of life segment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
homie, where'd you get your kicks? Like it didn't sound like that.
yeah. That is, and
So
it is hard to write stuff like that. Writing's hard. It's not easy. What was the name of that chick? Valencia. Her name was
I don't remember
Valencia
her last
something.
name. I just know that it was Valencia. And she was interesting. And she had that. I was like, is she Creole? She like something about her didn't just look straight white.
Yeah, she was racially ambiguous.
Very first time I ever watched it, I thought she was white. And so I thought,
Mm-hmm.
hey dude, that's kind of bold. You're in the South. They say they're the new South, but they are not. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
calm down. Then I watched it again and I'm like, there must be something about her that telegraphs to him that like she might be interested. I don't know what. But then the way that she like I thought that like the way she was acting, she wasn't even interested in anything that was going on. Like she was just there. But of course, we see by the end that she does have an interest in celebrities, like just not him. You
Yeah,
know,
he's
but
not a
like
celebrity.
yeah, well, he's a local celebrity. He's a small time celebrity, but
Yeah.
it just seems like he's intelligent, but sometimes his radar is off. Like you're not even to the level yet where she would even want to give you any kind of shine. Like, what are you doing? This isn't who you go after. Like, maybe a local backup dancer that everybody loves, maybe, but not her. She has an image, like, you know, and if she's gonna be with a black dude, it's gonna be maybe the dude who interrupted their conversation and gave him the look that we were both giving him, like, what are you doing? Like he came up to tell her, like, hey, such and such is coming like in 5 minutes. You know, it would be that kind of dude, like a squarer looking dude, maybe. Not you, or even a different kind of rapper. Like if he were more like a Bieber, you know, like
Or
rap
later on,
adjacent.
who did the Yoo-Hoo commercial? That dude.
Yes.
You know, I was reminded of, you know, because DMX died last week, you know.
Yes.
His documentary Backstage. I watched that again. And that came out God, it had to be like around 2000, 2001, somewhere around that time. It was with him and Jay-Z, and it was on their tour. I think it was like the Hard
I heard about that.
Tour.
I've read about it. Okay.
Yeah. It was a good film. What it drove home to me was how young these guys were. Like there was a young Ja Rule. I mean, he looks so much like a Ninja Turtle. Like,
oh, he really does.
Yes.
He looks like Bad Franklin.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, but this is young Ja Rule, a young Jay-Z, a young fine as hell DMX, and just all these young Beanie and everything. They looked ridiculous. His clothes were so big.
So big. If there was ever a strong gust, he was gone. They were all
just sail
like,
away.
Niggas can't fly.
He was like, what are y'all wearing? Like, who is dressing you? They're dressing themselves because they're young and they don't know any better. To them, that's fly. Like, and man, that's
fucking stylist.
Yes, I got style. I got swag. No, did you see how big like DMX's jean jacket? He's just swimming in this.
Yeah.
So, and all of them did, and that's who Paperboy looked like. He looked just like them, and I'm just like, can you just get a stylist, you know, or something? His hair wasn't, he hadn't even had a fresh haircut.
It didn't look
crazy.
Yeah.
He looked like thug nigga fresh off the street, had a nice flow, but it's gonna stay slanging.
But he could have lined up the foot. Like, this could be crazy, but if it's lined up right, shout out to my brother Preston Clark, who is like religious about linings. When he sees baby pictures, he's like, oh, I need to line that baby up. These ridiculous.
It's important because it's the edge. Like,
it's like you can do whatever you want here if this is all lined up. Yeah, and Earn should have been on that, but of course, Earn has not fully stepped into his role. Earn is just trying to come up, but he's not doing the work. I know. I see your face. We will get into it.
Did you see how he looked? I mean, when Paperboy said, just because you dress like a sixth grader, he looks stupid as hell.
That was a good line. He looked like, today I'm going to give my report on the Suez Canal. So they cut from the youth empowerment Atlanta, whatever game to Earn. And Earn gets approached by this, and I will hereto have ever refer to her as random white woman. This random white woman is like, Alonzo. And like, we don't see her yet. I believe like it's just her voice is off screen. We realize that she's talking to Earn, and she thinks that he's some dude named Alonzo. And I don't know about you, but the whole time, like up until the end, like where it's the big the big moment, I was tense. I didn't know like what was about to happen. Like, what is this woman getting ready to do? Because he's just playing along. He kind of half-heartedly attempted to like tell her that he wasn't who she thought, but like not really hard enough. And I think like once they were able to breeze past the security guard without the right credentials, he was like, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut because like being with her is kind of like my ticket in. And so he's just like humoring her, and she's just like talking, and it's obvious that she and this dude Alonzo have worked together, like they go way back. She's like making all these references. This security guard, white guy, I think, tells her that she can't smoke, and she's like, oh my god, she makes a big deal and then just throws it on the floor.
Yeah.
And you can like you can kind of see the guy, like he doesn't call the cops, he doesn't do anything like that. He looks kind of annoyed, picks it up off the floor. They get to the gatekeeper, the next gatekeeper, who's a black guy, who's like, y'all can't come in here. She's like, did you really think we're going to wear your ugly plastic credentials? Breezes by him. He doesn't object at all. Then he looks at Earn, and she's like, she vouches for him. So he goes in, he starts to feel himself, and then he realizes, okay, like if he were really doing his job, if he were like a real, because like at this point, what is he pretending to be, like Paperboy's manager, right? Or like
Yeah.
So he's basically like in this suite type place with other managers and just chilling and just kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna keep like letting this lady think that I'm Alonzo. And it was of course infuriating to watch how she just breezed by. When I watched this back when it first came out, it was like, well, of course. But then watching it now, like with new eyes, like post all of these Black people that have been murdered due to someone calling the police on misunderstandings, as well as the rise of Karens. It's like, this is a real Karen.
Yeah.
And is able to be just as disrespectful and as brash as she wants to be, and she can live through it. And the only reason why he wasn't tackled to the ground was because he's with her, even with a Black guy. And so, that just hits differently.
It does. Even just, I watched it repeatedly, and there were signs that she did not like Alonzo. Like if you've been around certain types of professionals, white professionals specifically, there is always this kind of frenemy dynamic going on. Because you play nice, you have to play nice with the people you work with, but like especially working in media, that was like, you can't trust any of those people, and they don't trust you and you don't trust them. But if you can partner on something and make some money together, it's all good. And so like, I was getting that energy from her, and then her behavior was expected and therefore accepted. And then juxtaposing that with Justin Bieber's, who is believed to be the actual Justin Bieber, but I love how the show puts him in this Black body, because I'm wondering, like, would I be as horrified if this is a white boy, an actual white boy doing this stuff? Yeah, I am, but there's something even more alarming about it, seeing a Black body do this, because it's like, oh no, you're not supposed to, but and you might get, and this might happen. So she's tossing cigarettes everywhere. He's peeing, in a hallway, wiping things off of the table, and everybody's just like, oh yeah, he's doing it.
When it's a Black kid, you're thinking about all of the consequences. Yes. And even though it's like, I don't like this dude, I'm still worried about him. Yeah. Like worried, like, oh no, like, no, because the cops are gonna come and, like it would have been perfectly acceptable if he were just a Black guy that wasn't Justin Bieber, but maybe was just like a rapper, for the cops to just be called, maybe, because they get away with things too, but it's still an air of like, thugs are just gonna thug. Like, it's like, we gotta let you get away with it because you're who you are. It isn't a happy, like, he's trying to work it out, like Lloyd tells us. In a perfect delivery. It made me so mad. I'm like, he did his job. Lloyd did his job. What's wrong with you?
He's like, you get soft, man.
And he's like, like, I'm fine with it.
But come to think of it, like, I think that was the theme of the show, like expected behavior, what behavior is expected and therefore accepted. Because Alfred did end up embodying exactly what they thought and assumed about him. And they let him fight. Nobody came to break up that fight.
They sure didn't.
No.
They did, which is crazy, because you would think that they would be like, stop picking on, Bieber. And like you could kind of hear the crowd like maybe kind of turned against them. But you're absolutely right. No one did anything. And that wouldn't happen in a real basketball game. It'd be like, no, stop. You're getting fined and you're getting fined. But it's probably because it's a random local event. Now it's going to be talked about. So it's like, just let it go. Like the woman said at the end, play your part. And that's
Yes.
exactly what he did.
And they were all playing a part. And Ern was supposed to play his part too. And to a certain extent, he did.
Mm-hmm.
But like, okay, dude, come on now. Did you think this out? Because you obviously thought about coordinating this event so Alfred could participate. Good for you. But like, were you gonna think about getting a card or something to hand out, whether it was like pictures or something? Like, were you fully prepared for this experience? Are you thinking? And it begs the question, just like last episode, how green are you? Like, what's going on up there? You know just enough to be dangerous, but there's so much more you should know. And like, what are you doing to fill in those knowledge gaps so that you can excel and your client can excel, your cousin, as it were?
He's not doing anything. I feel like Ern is just kind of like, he's just existing. He's kind of like just floating and like bumping into things and like, which just isn't, I don't know. I know I keep bringing it back to this, but it's like, I want to know what happened to him. It feels like they sent him through some kind of shock treatment and like everything is not there. Like he seems like he's in like a post-apocalyptic something, like in his brain, where when and if we ever find out, it would be like, oh, like okay, this is why you suck, because you had to have something to get to where you were. What if that never
happens? Like, what if he's just an intentionless dude? Because there are those people. And in fact,
do they get into Ivy League schools though? Like, I just feel like he had to show, like, I even just want to see what phoniness did you put forth to get to Princeton. You had to do something. He's not in a position where he's like, well, my dad bought a wing. No, there had to be something.
I don't know, but like, when they talked about his uncle, and he's like, yeah, you had promise, you had gifts, and look what you did with it.
Yeah.
So is he that same guy? Because there are those guys like, yeah, he has so much potential, but whatever is holding him back is holding him back. And it's not like he's a bad actor. It's not like he's out there running them streets.
Right.
It's not like he's whoring around. Yeah, he's got a child out of wedlock, because his major sin is having a child out of wedlock.
But even that situation isn't a thing where it's like, oh, the mom like doesn't care. It's like they're both, she's a responsible person. Yeah. She's a good mother. And he, to an extent, like, I like that they didn't make it like he doesn't care about his child. Because even like with the short times that he has his daughter, he's like joking with her. He shows her love. He's not a good partner, but he's a good dad. And I feel like they have done well, or they've gone out of their way to portray that. Even Van thinks that. Like, she doesn't like how he's trifling, but she knows that he loves their child. Like, he's not one of those dudes. But I don't know. I keep going back to when his dad in the first episode said, like, Al came over to see, like, should I trust him? And he was like, he's been messing up, but you know how your cousin is. When he wants something, he doesn't stop till he gets it. So that's why I keep bringing it back to, like, okay, you must have wanted Princeton. Like, they don't just take people in. Like, you got to do a little razzle dazzle. Got to do something.
Maybe he resorted to some cheating, because, like, you see what he did right before he got on the plane. Like, okay, I'm gonna put this tool to use. Maybe he did something illegal. So maybe that. So I was telling my friend the other day, I like two types. I like them short, dark, and foreign, or tall, dark, and hood. And he's like, well, obviously I'm not short, dark, and foreign. And I'm like, so what you think you are, nigga? Obviously you tall, dark, and hood. And he was like, I don't think I'm hood. And I'm like, hood is not necessarily the way that you talk and you carry yourself, but when you're from there, it's in you. Mm-hmm. And you act accordingly in certain situations. So I feel like at the end of the day, Ern is hood, just like Alfred is hood. And when push comes to shove, the hood does come out. And he does something with it. I think that he doesn't want to revert to that, but during the actual game,
yes,
I know your favorite part is my favorite part.
The hard R, but then it's almost like understood it because he had called him a couple times. It's like, boy, it was very like, does Black Biebs have children? It didn't sound young. It didn't sound like a young man, and not just because of the hard R denotes white and or old, but it's also like you didn't even sound like a young Black guy saying nigger. You sounded like nigger. I told you the cotton's supposed to be planted this way horizontally, and you did vertically. What's going on? Yeah, like I'm gonna sell you now.
Yeah, she messed up. You're getting sold.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
It was so funny. So is it during this game, Darius goes to the gun shop when he hears the dogs barking, and he's like, I'm gonna make this right with this tube, and we don't know yet.
The dogs are barking, and then he's kind of like, all right,
yeah. I see now what I must do.
But it makes sense when later on, they questioned him about it, and he was like, you don't know the dogs in my neighborhood. Like he actually I'm just like really realizing that and connecting it to the look. Yeah. Because he's kind of like trying to like take up for like, no, this is why I had this diagram where even the bone has a number on it. That was my Dariusism. That's all the parts are numbered, and then the bone. Like you're not gonna eat either.
Hey, that's sharpshooting right there. You can get that bone.
Oh my God, that little detail. I love this show. It's like, why is bone numbered? And it's off to the side.
I love that. I love the fact that there was a Middle Eastern dude in the gun range, just ready. Like, yeah, I'm practicing too. This is what I practice right here with y'all. And the fact that he was like, look at that poster. Like, why would I shoot at a poster of another human being? Like, look at that one. That's very specific, Dad.
Yeah. Yes. Dad. Yeah. It's like whoever made these things like working through some stuff. It's like mailman, teacher, PE coach. Just like, what's going on? What happened?
Dude was like, I saw you pointing at that poster of the Mexican with the knife. What is that about? Like,
yeah.
But it's true. And in the South, it's only been here where I've seen they've had like 5 segments about a person, including a child getting shot and killed. But there's like a 10-minute segment about the passing of a dog.
Yeah.
So of course he wasn't going to be allowed to shoot the dog poster in that gun range. Gets a shotgun pulled on him, no doubt.
Yes. Which the incident that happened recently in New Orleans, like that really, I knew how the show was going to end, but I was scared. Like on that part, it was like, and I don't think I was scared the first time I ever watched it. It was so absurd. And like, I feel like my initial watching of the show was like, of course this is happening because it's white people. Of course it's happening because it's the South. But this time I was just like, like a gun, like you're pulling that on. He could die. Yeah. And no one was in danger. He's actually the other guy, the shopkeeper, is the dangerous one. You have a gun and it's point blank in his face because you don't like what is on his poster. That is crazy. And then I was even more tense with the Middle Eastern guy comes up. And he's like stirring things up further, talking about the revolution, like will be paid in your blood. And then even Darius is like, I didn't say all that. Like, I'm supposed to shoot my diagram with the dog. Because I'm like, all right, dude, yeah, you're brown, but like you're about to get him in trouble. Like any other time I would think, okay, the brown guy like might scare them more because like 9/11 and things like that. But I still felt like, nah, some kind of way this is going to go sideways for Darius, even though he wasn't the one that uttered revolution or blood. He just had a numbered diagram of a dog and its bone. And this dude has a gun in his face. But I appreciated the calmness with which he just like, no, like I'm doing this. Like, I'm a citizen. Like, here's my ID and I'm coming here to shoot. So and that's been a consistent thing with him seasons 1 and 2. So
even the argument that ensued about why he shouldn't be using a dog as target practice. And the guy's like, what if my kids were here? And he's like, you're shooting at a man. Like you're shooting at other human beings, but this dog is going to adversely affect your children. That, and I'm a proponent of taking kids to the gun range to teach them how to shoot and do proper weapons carrying. So I don't have any problem with my kids are going to be in the gun range. They need to, like, it's something I'm going to impress with their father, and they'll watch mommy shoot too. But like shooting a dog, that's where they drew the line, and it made me even more upset at that woman at the event. Like him at that gun club you're the same person. You have the same mindset, you have the same mentality, you're the same type of issue that's wrong with this country in general. You know.
Yep. Yeah.
So
oh, though, what if my kids were here? That rallying cry of all parents. And I'm a parent, but it's like, those are your kids. Like, the world does not have to, like, yeah, like the world should be decent and things like that. But I chafe against that thing of like, every environment has to be a certain way for my kids that I decided to bring into the world. Like, that's just not, it isn't realistic. And it's like, okay, but if you have your, like, if you're going to bring your kids somewhere, you also need to accept the responsibility for what you're going to expose them to.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, you know, there's people like fucking at the gun range, like just in full plain sight. Like, that is an actual crime. Like, you shouldn't. So it's not like, well, your kids should be at the gun range. Yeah, but that has nothing to do with guns or shooting. Yeah. Like, you should be somewhere else. But it's like, if you bring them to a gun range, you know, you're shooting at things. And like, look at what it's a picture of. It could easily just be a target. Like, you could just be, it could be a target with like, maybe like the outline of a head. Because like, let's be real. Like, we're in here so that we can defend ourselves, but it's so detailed. Like, the dude has a suit and it's like, that's Leave It to Beaver Dad.
Yeah.
Like why does it have to be like, oh, she's got a twist out and some earrings? Like, why is this so why is it so detailed? It could be a stick person with just a general, like, you can keep it like very regular, like, you know, like, this is a headshot if you're trying to like get rid of the person. This is the knee if you just want to, you know, stop them. And no, these are full people with like features, and like that dude has a runny nose. Like, why is it so specific?
It's very specific.
Yeah.
So that whole mental dichotomy of like wanting liberty for everything that you do, but then wanting to control the environment because of what you are not prepared to explain to your child. Don't be gay around my kid, because then I have to explain stuff. Don't be sexual in a certain way around my kid, because then I have to explain stuff. Don't wear your hair in a different way, because then I have to explain that. Like, I need all of this environment controlled. And then if I want to fuck it up, I can, in the way that I so choose.
And here's the thing. Being a parent, I kind of understand it. Like, no, I got it. Like, because you don't feel like it. And being a parent sucks sometimes. But a part of being a parent, usually you're an adult. And so you just have to just deal. Like, you haven't figured out how to make your own world. So until then, you have to explain things. Like, I understand the inclination, because it's like, I'm not ready to do this. Like, I get it. But at the same time, you can't just be mad at other people. Like, they're living their lives. And what you're really saying is like, everything that I'm doing is right and it's within the bounds. But you over there, it's like, well, then you need to stay home. Like, you need to never leave the house. Yeah. And so, you know, it's like, yeah, I'm a parent and I get it. But at the same time, you're in the world. And unless you're going to be like one of those doomsday preppers and like you live in a bunker, you can't control everything. You know?
And you're also teaching your kids how to survive and navigate in this world that you do not control, and neither do they. And the sooner that they learn that, the better they'll be with everything in it. You know, but because you want to control all this stuff, you're pretty much setting yourself and your kid up to be an asshole. You know?
Yes.
So,
or deeply repressed.
We figured out why everything is wrong in the world in this conversation just now.
You're welcome, listeners and viewers.
You're very welcome. We did that for you.
There is a scene like where random white woman finally just explodes on Alonzo, also known as Earn, and says, don't look at me with that sharecropper smile, which was just chilling.
Yeah.
It was chilling. Like, I hated her so much more. And then she's pretty much said something to the effect of, I'm gonna make sure, you know, like
that you die homeless.
Yeah. And it's just like, the wrath of this white woman, like who just did that. Oh, like she's just breezy and she's got a little drinkies and she's doing whatever, but it's like, now you're evil. And when it comes down to it, it's like there's always a point at which like I'm going to make you pay. And it's like, if he were really Alonzo, she probably would have the power to do that. Even though you can tell she's at a low point in her life, even at her lowest, she still like walk around with the breeziness of like a planter's wife in the South, like, well, I don't have not a cent to my name, but I'm gonna make sure you pay. And it's just like, it just seems to be in them. Like she's looking at him as like he's doing well, and you can't have that. Like whatever Alonzo did to her, it's probably some shit that she has done to him or would have done to him without a second thought. But how dare you?
Yeah.
So
yeah, she still has the maid that will snatch some curtains down and make her a frock. It's that attitude.
God is her witness, right?
Yeah, it's God is her witness. But so then Justin Bieber, I think the final thing is Justin Bieber. He has committed all of these sins and atrocities. He's been forgiven for them. And then at the end, he puts on a hat. No, this is the real me. Like, it's like when we think that he's actually black, or like what?
No. So what I took that as is he put the hat on forward
instead of backwards.
He didn't have it on backwards, which is like the universal middle America for like, we're getting edgy up in here. Like if your youth pastor, they put the hat on backwards and then they turn the chair backwards and sit down.
Oh yeah, to take your order at the restaurant. Yeah, this
or
is edgy.
just like, we're gonna get real about Jesus. Like if it's like a youth, like, oh, he turned his cap backwards. So when he came up there and he put it on frontwards like a respectable person, he's like, hey guys, no, hey, this is the real me. That's how I took it. Even though I don't know, I can't remember if he had a cap on backwards to begin with, but the forward cap to me is always like, that's the way it's supposed to be. The Fresh Prince way is like, hey, we're getting edgy. Even though the Fresh Prince was like the least edgiest black dude ever, but to a certain demographic, it's like, whoa, he's probably doing that hippity hop.
He came out with that song and he called somebody a bitch in traffic. Like,
and it's like, oh no. Yeah, so that putting the cap on frontwards was like signaling, and everybody's like, oh my God, like they didn't know he even knew the direction of frontwards, or like after Beyonce dropped Formation and everybody was like, she's black. SNL did an awesome sketch on like, we just found out that she's black. And,
yeah.
And the guy's like a news reporter and he's like, oh my God, I'm getting word that Kerry Washington is also black. You're like, no! It's just like, but she's like, she's got hot sauce in her bag, swag. So it's just kind of like how white America, or like the mainstream, they see what they want to see. And then you do something like a little bit different, except to me, Black Biebs was taking that and like flipping it. Because it's all bullshit. But he's like, no guys, hey, so I'm sorry. They performed that stupid little song and dances come out of nowhere. Like they knew they planned this, they're just there. You have dances at a basketball game.
Yeah, whatever I did does about it.
Yes.
And now the fact that I know that is Donald Glover singing, it just makes it funnier.
Yes, who can be looked at as like a black bee? Totally, when he was like younger, come out and done that because he has that perpetual like third grader face. He could seriously do it, and there are just so many layers. Like he was a writer, like on 30 Rock, he was on Community, and that persona is so different from Childish Gambino that there's a bunch of people, mostly children, who didn't even know that it was the same person. Yeah. I even saw a meme that said, y'all ever notice how much Donald Glover looked like Childish Gambino? And I thought it was a joke. Like, to me, his Biebs phase was being on Community and writing for 30 Rock, which when you're a writer on a show, like, people don't really know that. Like, you got to be a nerd like me that, like, reads credits to know, like, did you know that Donald Glover wrote for that show in the second season? Like, you have to, like, really, really know that. But to me, that's, like, his version of that was Biebs. And then Childish Gambino is completely different. So much so that people didn't even know that it was the same person. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That song was perfect.
It was perfect. Whatever I
did.
Doesn't matter.
The woman like dances off. She's like, play your role. She dances so hard. That's when I was like, nah, she's not totally white. Like, that was a stupid move, but like she went.
Yeah, like she was just all into it. Like that
It
was an
was
acceptable
crazy
thing to
looking.
do.
Like, what are you doing? And it just added to just like the whole thing was absurd. Like it almost, I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have cut to like Paperboy waking up and being like, that was a horrible dream. Like it had that kind of feel to it. Like this can't all like really be happening.
But you and I both know from personal experience and because we know the world, like all of that was totally real.
Yes.
And then the other thing, what was the other thing that happened? When they were watching him fight with Justin Bieber, and he's like, yeah, I'm drunk, but this is ridiculous. We've gone through all of our elements. That's So Atlanta. The magical element is, of course, Justin Bieber, the Dariusism, and SGR is, of course, the fight.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I think we had all the same things. Random white woman. Well, I said that my SGR moment was the moment the woman like flipped the script and was like, wipe that sharecropper smile, because it's like she became the planner. Like, I know that's like a triggering, and I hate the term triggering, but it's like that's what it did. Like when she did that, I felt anger, but I was anxious too. Like it was almost like, okay, now we're watching Roots, and something horrible is about to happen to like one of the slaves. It's just that scary white lady thing.
So anyway, that's the entire episode pretty much, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Thank you for watching. Rappin' Atlanta is recorded and produced by Nita Sharice and Nikki Ebro. Our theme music is Joy Clark's Galaxy Groove, performed by Joy Clark. Discover more about this talented artist at joyclarkmusic.com. Rappin' Atlanta's artwork is created by Prime Vice Studios. Learn more about this intellectual property development agency at primevice.com. You can find us on your favorite podcast player as well as YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and follow Rappin' Atlanta on Twitter and Instagram at Rappin' Atlanta.